Bruchot habaot, ladies. Bruchot hanimtzaot. It's so good to see you all again. Hope you had a good week. I have a couple of announcements to make. First and foremost, again, a reminder to everyone who logs on to Torah anytime, viewers out there. If you're enjoying the shiurim, please follow me on Torah anytime. Click the follow button so that whenever a shiur is posted, you'll actually get a notification that a new shiur is available and you can log on and listen or view it. So please follow me on Torah anytime. Second of all, this coming week, February 7th, Be'ezrat Hashem, we are going to have a Achnasat Kala fundraiser. The information is going to post on the screen. It's going to take place at 7:30 p.m. And I hope to see you all there, Be'ezrat Hashem. For more information, you could call the Ohel Sarah office, which is the number is 347-430-5700. Let's begin. Today, I want to delve into a specific aspect of Parashat Mishpatim, which has many valuable lessons to impart, and it's famous for all the monetary laws that it contains. But one of the psukim that I want to delve into, it's not a monetary law, but it still requires our attention. The pasuk says, "Vegonev ish umcharo, venimtza beyado, mot yumat." The Torah is talking about the sin of kidnapping, stealing people. The Torah places tremendous emphasis on kidnapping. It's considered a capital crime. The pasuk clearly tells us that there's a death penalty involved, mot yumat. And the Torah HaKadoshah informs us that the punishment is chenek, it's strangulation. Now in some countries, kidnapping has become a form of business. And the Torah gives us very clear instructions as to how much one should pay towards a ransom. That falls, by the way, under the laws of Pidyon Shvuim. And after a certain amount is fulfilled for the ransom, the Torah forbids us to add any more money because that's going to give the kidnappers incentive to do it again. As a matter of fact, Rav Meir Rottenberg, alav shalom, who was a big Talmid Chacham and was responsible for saving European Jewry during his time, he wrote over 3,000 answers to this subject of kidnapping and stealing. And he writes that in his time, kidnapping was very, very common. And he gave a final price that people should pay for kidnapping. Interestingly, after Rav Rottenberg wrote his answer, he himself was captured and he was placed into prison. And unfortunately, sadly, he ended up dying in prison after 8 years of being there. He was such a loyal rabbi that he asked the people not to redeem him. He wrote a psak, and he had to live by that psak. And sadly, after he died, the government would not release his body without payment. And he wrote in his will that no one should redeem him after his death. It shows the loyalty to his people and to his psak. And eventually, 7 years later, after his death, when they finally made a deal with the government, they took Rabbi Meir's body, and miraculously they found that his body had not decomposed. This is the tzidkut of this man, the righteousness. But the Chazon Ish alav shalom says that this mitzvah has many implications and may be more applicable to many of us today. And the Chazon Ish says that from this pasuk we learn that it's forbidden for a person to exercise control over somebody else and to steal from him or deprive him of his freedom. Why? Because that's as if you're imprisoning someone. It's as if you're holding somebody in captivity. There was a doctor named Perot, who invented the term control freak. Control freaks are people that have an obsession in which they feel a need to dominate people and have mastery over them. And they like to exercise their power and show their dominance over other people. Unfortunately, ladies, this type of syndrome can manifest itself in all areas of life, whether it's a teacher in a classroom, a principal. There have been cases, by the way, of teachers who were control freaks and they would tyrannize the students. And you should know that that is a form of gonev ish umcharo. Parents also have to be aware of this dilemma because it affects you too. It affects you too. Because sometimes in the case of a divorce, chas v'shalom, which unfortunately has turned into a battleground for some couples, children have unfortunately become the pawn for one of the parents in order to gain leverage in the battle, in the divorce suit. And that's a great sin, very demeaning. No one should ever use a child as a personal vendetta. When parents who brought these children into the world in the first place use them as pawns in order to get what they want, this is a form of gonev ish umcharo. You're stealing their being. Whether it's a husband who's manipulating a wife, or a wife who's controlling her husband, or in the case of the aguna, where a husband is tying up the wife and he doesn't allow her to move on with her life and she becomes an aguna, this is a form of imprisonment. Gonev ish umcharo. It's a sin. Either way, according to the Chazon Ish, all these things that we've mentioned and more are a sin. Gonev ish umcharo. But I do want to point out, however, that we do have a tendency as human beings to resist control. The Gemara of Kiddushin asks, who's better? The child who serves his father without being commanded, or the child who serves his father after hearing the instructions from his parent? The Gemara says, Gadol ha-metzuveh ve'oseh. Greater is the one who is commanded and does. And Chachamim are stunned. Here a child brings his father a glass of tea without being asked. And the other child, when the father asks for a glass of tea, also runs through mitzvah. But the one who is asked is greater? We would think just the opposite. But the Tosafot explains that the child who acts voluntarily, he's classified as what the Gemara calls pat besalo. He's got bread in his basket. What does that mean? It means he's not forced into doing this mitzvah. He's on his own schedule and therefore nobody's pressuring him. But once you're told to do something, there's an automatic response that humans have of, don't tell me what to do. Once you tell me what to do, now I don't want to do it. There's a rebellion that's stirred up in the person. In other words, I'll bring you the water. If you want water, I'll bring you. But you're telling me to bring you the water right now? Oh, so now already it becomes a struggle with the nature of don't tell me what to do. Don't try to manipulate me. Don't try to control me. I'll bring you the water when I want. Therefore, it's much more difficult for the one who's commanded to act upon that commandment. Hence, the reward is so much greater. There's a Gemara in Sanhedrin that says that once Antoninus, who is known to us as Marcus Aurelius, the Roman Caesar, he and Rabbeinu HaKadosh, they were having a deep discussion. We're told that they were long-time charusas. They were study partners. And Antoninus asks Rebbe, at what stage of life does the Yetzer Hara enter a person? Does it happen at conception or does it happen at birth? And Rabbeinu HaKadosh thought about it and he said, you know what, at conception. And Antoninus replied saying, it's impossible that it's during conception, because if the child had a Yetzer Hara at conception, he would break his way out of the womb and he would escape. So it must be that the Yetzer Hara probably enters the child after he's born, because the child would be so violent if the Yetzer Hara was in the womb from conception that it would cause him to burst out of the womb. Rabbeinu HaKadosh thought about it, and he said, you know what? You might be right. The Yetzer Hara enters a person after he's born. You have a point. And Rav Avram Grzinski, alav hashalom, comments on this Gemara, And he says, let's say the Yetzer Hara is in a person during his life in the womb. Why would he want to escape? If he would escape, it would cause him to die. He's not developed yet. In other words, we know that the Yetzer Hara is driven by pleasure. We know it wants to enjoy. So why would Antoninus say that if the Yetzer Hara was in the womb from conception, the fetus would just want to burst forth? And why did Rabbeinu HaKadosh agree with Antoninus? Why would the fetus want to break out of the womb knowing that it's going to die? Once he bursts forth, that's the end of him. So Rav Grzinski states that in his opinion, the Yetzer Hara's drive is not so much the pursuit of pleasure, but rather the desire to throw away all restrictions. I don't want to be restricted. The Yetzer Hara does not want to be confined. It doesn't want to be boxed in. So when it's in the womb, it feels as though it's too crowded in there. I'm confined in here. I'm restrained in here. I'm limited. The Yetzer Hara's desire is to have no yoke. I don't want any all. Nothing holding it down. Even if it's at the expense of its own death. So Rav Grzinski continues and it says, if this is the drive of the Yetzer Hara, and we all have a Yetzer Hara, therefore this plays on a person's psychological makeup. Because we're all products of our Yetzer Hara, and that's why no one likes to feel confined and restricted. Just like the Yetzer Hara doesn't like to be confined to anything, so too biologically the human nature is such that we don't either like to be restrained or commanded. You understand? We live in a society, unfortunately, look at what's going on today, and I'm going to be bold and I'm going to say we've all gone out of control. This is a generation that very rarely exercises any control. Think of the addictions that are so rampant in the world where no one is able to hold himself back from any ta'ava anymore, from any desire. Anything goes out there. And there have been explanations offered as to why this is happening in the world. One of them we spoke about already, all the technological advancements and this revolution of technology, where we're taught since we're young that we don't have to delay gratification. If you want something, it could be done immediately. In the olden days, if a person wanted to copy something, you'd have to take a stencil and you have to put it under that paper, and then you would go over the faint lines. Today you have copiers. You could copy hundreds of papers by the push of a button. There's no such thing as delaying the gratification. A person can hop on a plane and a few hours later find himself anywhere in the world. We have instant food today. In 30 seconds, you throw something cold into the microwave and boom, it's hot. And this, ladies, also plays itself not only in the kitchens of our homes, but also in our personal lives. Our personal lives when we're up against a pleasure or a desire that we want. It's like imagine a 3-year-old. You can't tell him, oh, wait 3 minutes before I get you the cup of milk. The child wants what he wants when he wants it, and usually the mentality of a 2-3-year-old is, I want it now, I want it now. So with the child, you say, fine, he's only a kid, let me give it to him. But in our generation today, everybody has adapted this juvenile mentality. We all want what we want, and we want it now. And we don't want to wait, because we're not trained to wait anymore. And that's why our society is losing control. We're losing control over ourselves. And at the same time, we're finding a society that's very controlling over others. It's ironic. We've lost control over our own lives, but somehow we managed to control somebody else's life. Could you explain this to me? So one Rav once said that when he was young, he used to play with a matchbox car. And he would roll it across the floor, and he didn't have much control over it. Sometimes the matchbox car would veer off to the right, sometimes to the left. And he knew that once it left his hand, he had no control over that little car. But now, this new generation, we were introduced to remote control cars where the child is able to maneuver the little car exactly where he wants it to go. So now go tell a kid who could control a car at age 4, you can't control everything in life. The kid looks at you and he says, what are you talking about? If I can control this car, I can control anything. Therefore, the instant gratification is causing us to lose ourselves, and the over-controlling aspect of the human destroys society as well. So here you have an example of some of the maladies, unfortunately, of our current generation. I want to point out that they did a study recently with children. They brought them into a room and they told them, you know, if you want, you could eat these marshmallows right now, but if you wait 15 minutes, we're going to give you more marshmallows. And of course, to a child, 15 minutes is like an eternity. So some children ate the marshmallows right away, and some children thought about it and they waited. After this experiment, they kept in touch with these children for many years just to see how their lives would turn out. And interestingly, the children who had self-control when they were young, they developed into more confident children who made proper decisions. They were more balanced in life. And the others who ate the marshmallows right away, they experienced many problems in life that they were unable to get out of. So it teaches us something very valuable. It shows us how important it is for parents to teach their children to have self-control. You know, often parents think that they're doing a child a favor if they give in to the child the minute that the child asks for something. That's not a service that you're doing for your children. You have to teach your children not to get used to instant gratification. You have to try and get your children to get used to delaying their desires so that it's going to benefit them, Be'ezrat Hashem, when they grow up. The Baal Shem Tov, Alav Shalom, lived during a very difficult time in Jewish history, where Jewish people were constantly being massacred and oppressed. It was also the time of Shabtai Tzvi, the false Messiah. Now put all those things together and you can imagine how depressing a time it was for the Jewish people. Came the Baal Shem Tov and he began the Hasidic movement. And one of his first statements was, Ivdu et Hashem b'simcha. A person has to serve Hashem with happiness, with joy. And people thought he was crazy. Well, there's something to be happy about. So he said, you know, these anti-Semites can control our bodies. They can control our state of comfort and maybe even our lives. But they cannot control our neshama. The neshama is the Jew's personal property, and that they cannot control. They can't control the attitude of the Jew. And that gave the Jews tremendous inspiration, tremendous chizuk, and the Jews felt that there was something that still belonged to them. And when the anti-Semites saw that they couldn't break the spirit of the Jew, even though it made them cringe from inside, it also gave them the respect for the Jews. They respected the Jews. But ladies, what I really want to share with you today is a powerful midrash from Shir HaShirim. The midrash quotes a pasuk from Mishle. It says, Chazita ish mahir b'melachto. If you see a person who's diligent in his work, lifnei melachim yityatzav. This person will eventually stand before kings. And the midrash asks, who is this referring to? And they answer, Ze Rav Hanina. One day, Rav Hanina saw his landsmen bringing up korbanot to Yerushalayim. And he says, everybody's bringing up korbanot to Yerushalayim, and I have nothing to bring. What should I do? He immediately went out to the desert near his city, and he found a big rock, a big boulder. He smoothened the rock, he chiseled it, he fashioned it, And then he vowed that he would bring this rock to Yerushalayim so that it could be used to either beautify some building or a part of the city. He felt that he couldn't bring up a korban like everybody else, but I could bring this rock. So he tried to hire workers to help him move the rock, but every worker wanted an exorbitant amount of money, so he was left pretty much alone trying to carry this rock. At that moment, HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought down to this world 5 malachim, 5 angels in the form of men. And they asked him for a very small fee, but on the condition that Rav Hanina should help carry the rock together with them. Now that's a little strange. HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends malachim to help Rav Hanina. So why do they insist that he help them carry the rock? But in any case, Rav Hanina helped carry the rock, and when they get to Yerushalayim, the angels disappeared. This story got back to the Rabbanim of the Sanhedrin, and they summon Rav Hanina, and they say to him, it seems that Rav Hanina had the Malachei Asheret come down to help him. And Rav Hanina claimed, I offered to pay them. I didn't know they were angels. They disappeared before I could pay them. And instead, he offered to give the money towards the Bet HaMikdash. Whatever money he was going to give them, he offered the Sanhedrin. Ladies, this Midrash, if its depth and its message could be understood correctly, has the ability to change your life. There's a lot of musar and a great yesod of life that can be learned. And the foundation is as follows. This is the yesod. And although the scientists are still trying to figure out the complicated machine called the human being, the more they reveal, the more they realize how more complicated the human being is. And one of the things that they still haven't understood, but that we learned from when we were little, is that human beings have a tremendous power. And that power is called Bechira Chofshit, free will. We spoke about this. It's a power that enables us to make decisions, a power that enables us to succeed. That power is a gift from Hashem. Chachamim tell us that whenever Hashem commands us to do a mitzvah, with the mitzvah comes a package. And in this little package is called free will. This is where HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you the ability to succeed in that particular mission. So Chachamim tell us, with every mitzvah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu commands, there's also a power that comes with it. The power is the ability to be able to accomplish that mitzvah. That's what free will is. And therefore there are 613 mitzvot. And every mitzvah that a person accepts upon himself is as if the person is freeing himself. Because outside of the realm of mitzvot, most things are in HaKadosh Baruch Hu's control. But when it comes to mitzvot, ladies, Hashem gives a certain amount of freedom to you in order for you to succeed, or not succeed, but ultimately it's up to you. It's up to the person himself. With every mitzvah in the Torah, there comes with it a gift of free will, which gives the person the ability to overcome the unsurmountable, that you could overcome any stumbling block that's in your way. You're able to climb over that stumbling block and you can move on. That's the power of human beings, and the scientists don't want to talk about it too much. That means that man can withstand temptation, and that's a gift from the Ribono Shel Olam. The Midrash says that when Adam HaRishon was created, HaKadosh Baruch Hu took the entire earth and he placed it underneath him. What does that mean? Obviously, it's not to be taken literally. But Chachamim tell us that it means metaphorically that Hashem told Adam HaRishon that he has the ability to control nature. That man has the ability to rise above the nature of the creation of the world itself. The problem is that we don't recognize the strength that we have. So this Midrash was written in order to remind us. Rav Hanina wanted to do something. He wanted to move a rock from a field, and he wanted to bring it to Yerushalayim. Rav Chanina had a very powerful weapon in his arsenal, and that was his willpower. The Midrash is telling us that just like free will is the strength of a person, so is your willpower. It's an enormous power that you're possessed with, because when you're focused on a goal and you utilize your willpower, that's indeed a very powerful tool, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to create miracles for you. Rav Chanina had a message to share with the world, and he didn't even know it. He had a mission to get the rock to Yerushalayim, and he spent a lot of time fashioning this rock. And even though he had no money to transport this rock, his mind was set to have this done. And he thought this rock is going to get to Yerushalayim somehow, some way. And Hashem made a miracle. Once HaKadosh Baruch Hu saw Rav Chanina's strong will, and his willingness is so genuine, he sent 5 angels down to help him. These angels, they wanted a small fee, and they insisted that Rav Chanina help move the rock. Why? Because the Malachim were telling Rav Chanina, our strength, the ability that we're going to have to move this rock, will be only because of your will, of your ratzon. Because you want it so much, Hashem sent us down. But if you're not going to help us, we're going to have to go back up to Shamayim. And he helped them. And sure enough, the rock was able to move. Ladies, what a profound lesson the Midrash is pointing out to us. The control of human beings on their own lives is so great. We could accomplish anything. The problem is that we don't believe that. Many people believe that they're weak, that they're incapable. They don't believe they could become strong, not in Torah, not in certain areas of their life. They resolve to being the middle of the road kind of people. But Shlomo HaMelech, alav shalom, says to these kinds of people, you're mistaken. Chazita ish b'melachto. If you see a man with a drive and a passion for what he's doing, he'll most likely succeed and he'll stand before kings. Shlomo HaMelech is saying we shouldn't underestimate the strength that we have as human beings. We shouldn't underestimate our powers. When a person has the understanding that he has the ability to do the impossible, even if it means moving a boulder from the desert to Yerushalayim, he could do it. So you could ask, you mean to tell me Hashem is going to send me 5 angels and make a miracle for me if I have willpower? And of course the answer is, look, we're talking about Rav Chanina over there who had tremendous zchuyot. I don't know about us today. But what I do know is that we say every day in our tefillot, Ve'al nisecha shebechol yom imanu. We thank Hashem for the constant miracles that He makes for us every single day. What does that mean? It means that obviously there are miracles taking place every day in our lives, no? To those people who Hashem sees in them a genuine will and motivation to succeed, I'm sure they see miracles in their life every day. We ladies are in control of our destinies. And of course we need siyata dishmaya. But it begins with human effort, ishtadlut. And no matter where we direct our will, if we're committed, and if we don't waver, then niflei melachim yitiyatzav. We're going to one day stand before kings. The Ger Rebbe explains a Gemara of Sotah. The Gemara explains what the generation of Mashiach is going to look like. The complexities, the chutzpah, and all the other problems that we're going to face in this era of Mashiach. And then the Gemara says that during this time, the attitude of the people is going to be Ve'en lanu al mi leishaen ela al avinu shebashamayim. there's no one on whom to rely on except for the Ribono Shel Olam. The simple explanation is that there's going to come a time where it will be so hopeless that we won't be able to put our faith not in the government, not in the army, not in the banks, or our money, and anything, only in Hashem. But the Ger Rebbe had a different explanation. He said it's going to be a generation of weak people. People will be hopeless, not about the world situation, but about their own situation. People will live in despair, and they won't realize their inner strength or what they're capable of doing. The Jews of this generation are going to say, I could only rely on Hashem and nobody else. And the Ger Rebbe said, no. Hashem gave you tremendous talents and potential. Hashem gave you the power and the strength to supersede all odds. And therefore you have to use the powers that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you, and most certainly you're going to have siyata dishmaya. But you have to will it. You have to want it. But in a generation that's lazy and is saying, oh, I can't become great. It's just too much for me. I'm doing my best. In a generation that doesn't really believe in themselves, in a generation that knocks determination and confidence, how can they succeed? So the Ger Rebbe said, we can control our own destiny, but we have to believe it. But to come along and constantly excuse ourselves by saying, "En lanu al mi leishen," that's a cop-out. Because it's not only up to Hashem, it's up to you. It's up to all of us. If a person wants, he could do the impossible with the help of Hashem, of course. But a person has to make an effort. Because we're unfortunately living in a generation with a very low self-esteem. But if we put our minds to it, there's nothing that we can't accomplish. We are, after all, Klal Yisrael. There's a story about Rav Yolz, alav shalom, who emigrated to America in 1921. And he became the Rav of a shul in Philadelphia. His father knew the Chafetz Chaim, and he personally met him at one of the Agudah conventions. And he wrote to his son, this Rav in Philadelphia, how the most fascinating speech at the convention came from Rav Meir Shapiro, alav shalom, who introduced the idea of the Daf Hayomi. Rav Shapiro said in his speech, the Gemara in Sanhedrin tells us that Adam Arishon was created from dirt that was taken from different parts of the world. Why was this necessary? And the Gemara answers, so that wherever Adam would end up living, he'd feel comfortable. The Daf of Gemara, says Rav Meir Shapiro, is also a composite of many different places. The Mishnah came from Eretz Yisrael. The Talmud was from Bavel. The Rashi and Tosafot came from France. The Rambam was from Spain, vechule, vechule. The Daf is a composite of thoughts that stemmed from different parts of the world. And that's what embodies our Talmud. And if we could only unite Jews, that they should all study the same page every day, then we could have an achdut among all the Jews all over the world. And that's when the Daf Hayomi program began. And this Rav, who was there, listening to this speech, wrote to his son. What an amazing speech Rav Shapiro gave him. What an amazing idea the Daf Hayomi program was. So he urged his son to start the Daf Hayomi in his shul. After a few weeks, this rabbi, Philadelphia, his enthusiasm fizzled out. Not because he wasn't committed to the learning or to the program, but because he had many responsibilities. But miraculously, Hashem made it that Rav Meir Shapiro made his way to Philadelphia. And this Rav from Philadelphia and Rav Meir Shapiro met. And when Rav Shapiro asked him about the Daf Hayomi, Rav Yolz kind of embarrassingly, told him the truth. I had to stop. So Rav Shapiro told him, so start it again. And believe me, you'll be thankful. You'll be doing me a favor. Rav Yoel's heard this. It inspired him to begin again. Ladies, this rabbi from Philadelphia finished Shas in 1931 with the Daf Hayomi program. He finished it again in 1938, again in 1945, again in 1953, and so on and so forth. He did this until 1982, when he was 97 years old. The Shas gave him life, ladies. In his old age, he finished Shas 8 times. And in his last will and testament, he asked that when he dies, they should put on his tombstone the daf of Gemara that pertains to the day which he died. When he died, they put on his tombstone Masechet Zevachim Daf Tzadi Hey. This shows us, ladies, what a person is capable of when he wants to accomplish. And when he puts his mind to it, he could succeed and change his entire attitude towards life and even the end of his life. Hashem does miracles for people, and he opens doors that were never open to us before, ladies. But until a person doesn't make an effort or show a will to succeed, it becomes impossible for that person. But once he makes an effort, then the miracles begin to materialize. This man took control of the situation, and look what he did. He finished Shas 8 times in his life. The Kscohen Rebbe, alav shalom, at a siyum of Parashat Bereshit in a classroom of little boys, he saw a little boy who got up and recited the last few psukim of Bereshit, which depicts the names of people and the ages and when they died. And when the Kscohen Rebbe heard this little boy reading the psukim, he said out loud, "Wrong." What does that mean, wrong? So the boy began reciting the psukim all over again. And again, the Rebbe said, "No, you're reading it all wrong." The little boy couldn't understand. And he said, "This is how my Rebbe taught me." So the Kscohen Rebbe said, "Your Rebbe taught you wrong." And he said, "Let me read the psukim for you in the manner that they should be read." And he took the Chumash and he started to read out loud. Vayechi Adam, and Adam lived. And then in a very low voice he said, Vayamot, and he died. What was the message? The message was, when you talk about life, you should be enthused about it. When you talk about living, it should be with a vigor, with excitement. Vayechi Adam. But death, you could say in a whisper. Life has to be filled with an intensity, not with indifference or half-heartedness. A person has to have goals as to where he wants to go. Vayechi Adam. Man must live. He must accomplish. Perhaps this is what David HaMelech meant when he wrote, Lo amut ki achyeh va'asaper ma'aseka. I will not die, but I will live and praise God's deeds. But you know, if you read this pasuk differently, it could mean the following. Lo amut ki achyeh, which means I will not die while I'm living. Because some people are living, but it's as if they're dead. They have no faith in themselves. So David HaMelech is saying, I will not be dead in my enthusiasm of life. A person has to be driven, that he could accomplish tremendous things if he wants to, if he has that ratzon. And that's what Shlomo HaMelech was saying. Chazita ish b'melachto. When you see a man that's running and doing and going and he has a certain passion, rest assured that he's going to be standing in front of kings one day. If a Kadosh Baruch Hu has to send angels down to carry the rock for this man from the desert into Yerushalayim, it will happen because the man genuinely wants it to happen. And maybe this is what the pasuk is teaching us. in Parashat Mishpatim, ladies. Vegonev ish umcharo. It's not just referring to a person who goes out and kidnaps somebody. That's the simple understanding of the pasuk. It's not just about the control freaks out there, about the people who are dominating other people and who can't handle the restrictions and commandments. The pasuk could also be referring to a personal imprisonment. When a person robs himself of his potential, when a person steals from himself the ability to do so much in this world, vegonev ish, he's stealing himself, he's depriving himself of all the greatness that he could rise to. When a person doesn't recognize his capabilities or his potentials and he resolves to live his life as the middle of the road kind of guy, kind of person, and he doesn't have his eyes set on accomplishing the noble tasks, then vegonev ish umchao. He's stealing from himself his own potentials that was set forth prior to his coming down to this earth. And when he does that, ladies, it's a crime. V'nimsar beyado. The crime is because it is within his capabilities. It is in his hands. Beyado. He has the potential and he throws it away. He's robbing himself. V'nimsar beyado. He's stealing from himself the potential that was given into his very own hands. And the Torah tells us the fate of such a person. Mot yumat. When he's still alive, he's walking around as if he's dead. Why? Because when life is lived without fervor, without enthusiasm, and that's as if you're dead. That's a life with no meaning. Therefore, ladies, the message of today's shiur is that we have to set goals for ourselves in every aspect of Torah. And we shouldn't let other people and their opinions get in the way of our goals. Great people are the ones who set high goals for themselves, even though everybody's laughing at them. And at the end of the day, when they succeed, they're the ones laughing at everybody else. If you put your mind to it, no matter what the limitations are, you will succeed. Lifnei melachim yitiyatzav. By the way, melachim, the mefarshim say, doesn't just refer to the angels, it refers to Hashem himself. Melachim, kings. When we accomplish our goals, we can then proudly stand before the Ribono Shel Olam because we didn't hold ourselves in captivity. So ladies, we have to free ourselves from ourselves in order to grow. Hashem assists us when we wish to genuinely assist ourselves. Because in order to accomplish our goals, ladies, we don't only need siyata dishmaya. We need life. We need vigor and excitement. We need belief in ourselves. And that's what the Rav Meir Shapiro meant when he told the Rav from Philadelphia, you'll be thankful. Meaning the Daf gave this man longevity. He lived to be 97 years old. It goes to show us that in the merit of our will and our determination and fervor to do the right things and to reach our potentials, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will bless us with nisim, with miracles and a long life so that we could accomplish all the tasks that were brought down, that we were brought down to this world to accomplish. And then, when we have done so, we're going to merit Bezrat Hashem to stand before HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'chvado ve'atzmo.